Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
we'll do our roll call first. Mark Layden, I am the chair of the committee.
Don Bristleton, member.
Adam Engine, voice chair.
Rob Corson, member.
Dan Chartrand, select board rep to facilities advisory.
Dave Sharp. And Dave Sharple's town planner. All right, minutes taker. So last time, I think Alan, you and I were going to team up. I gotta send you my draft minutes so we can combine. And
Oh yeah, and I have one taken from last time too.
Okay, so we can combine effort there. We can do the same, or Rob, if you want to. I mean, you've done a bunch of them, so
I usually take notes on you, so.
yeah. All right, I'll do the same. We can partner up on that. All right. So Rob is the lead. Everybody else will contribute. We don't have any past meeting minutes, so as a
How many do we have stacked up? I'm waiting for 2.
maybe a little maybe 2+. Yeah. So all right, I need to get going on that. I need to be better with
Hey,
you know,
just
where we are with that.
just trying to keep track.
Yeah, I probably should do that too. All right.
My overlords will yell at me if that gets too far behind.
Pam did send a note asking for some meeting minutes.
Yes, speaking of my overlords.
Yeah, so, and she's very good about the agenda, about reminding of the agenda. So for police station, fire substation, Dave, do you have an update on that?
Not much since the last time. It's just design development continues. Still on schedule for that to be completed on May 1st. And really haven't met in the last couple of weeks. I think we met this week for the first time in a couple of weeks because they were kind of just busy doing stuff. So it was just more of an update the other day just to say we're on budget. On schedule for May 1st completion, which is kind of the next big milestone. So then we'll get cost estimates after that.
Right, you're gonna get, remind us, you're gonna get 2 cost estimates, or you have one and it's being reviewed by the owner's rep?
We did 2. We did one, the construction manager did one and the OPM did one
Okay,
for schematic design. And then we assume we're gonna do the same at design development.
all right, so you get the CM.
2
so
of
you have
them
CM.
and then a reconciliation.
Yeah.
You asked for a copy of that last time, right?
I don't know.
We haven't done it yet though. The ones we haven't done, right?
They're complete.
Yeah, that's not until probably
Around May.
End of May.
End of May?
Mid-May. They said they needed probably after schematic, if design development finishes on May 1st, they said they need 2 or 3 weeks after that.
Well, you
to
have
get it.
you have one for schematic though, right?
Correct, that was a while ago. Yes.
So,
It's
good to-
automatically connected. I don't know. Do you know the Wi-Fi password for here?
Public, 2 capital Ps, 2012. All one word, public, 2012,
okay,
and the Ps are capitalized.
okay.
My computer remembers it. All right, need 2 to 3 weeks.
So do we want to look at the schematic design estimates?
It's up to you. I mean,
I think it'd be good to me. If we don't have a benchmark, if we don't have a starting point, I mean, it's hard to make a judgment if you don't know where you went from beginning to this to that. It's really the stepping stone. So it gives us at least background to sit there and say, where did they start out with? And then what did the design development one add to it? So I think it's nice to have the sequence.
Is that okay, Dave?
I will ask them, I don't, it was all over the place and it's dramatically changed.
But you have a reconciled.
Yeah, so, and it's, yeah.
So you have a reconciled ST estimate.
Does this run into?
I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
Like, I thought reconciled where they would both agree, but they both differed on a few things. Not much, but they still said, this is what we feel, this is what we feel. So there were still 2 different numbers.
Is part of that, I sense hesitation, is part of that issue that the police chief had with not wanting to? No, that's not what's going on. Okay, good.
Yeah.
No, I just don't want to, I let the select board administration inform the select board about what the, on the project. So I want to just make sure that happens first. And I go through that. I ask, okay, what can
it's not.
what can we share? What can we not? I mean, I don't mind. It doesn't matter to me. I will ask.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if we want to continue to try to support you guys, I mean, it'd be good to be able to see where you are with the SD, and then
You do have way more.
Because have you got those?
No.
Okay.
But you do have way more experienced practitioners in this room than you have in that room. I understand you're wanting the select board to have first crack at it, but I can talk about that in our meeting on Monday and see if the board's comfortable with facilities advisory seeing it first. Do you want me to do that?
I don't know if I dictate that. I don't dictate with the board. I'm just trying to follow the administration's
I can
lead.
have a conversation one-on-one with the chair and see how he would prefer us to proceed. I think I understand what your hesitation is.
Well, we don't want to get any narratives out there that, this is where it's going, this is where it's not. Because it's such in flux, or it was in flux, and has dramatically changed in the last couple of months. Because of
And obviously,
the schematic design estimate.
a big project like this with a particular number in this environment, that can be very difficult. So I think I understand why you're hesitating. But at the same time, the practitioners in this room have a lot of repetitions, and it would be helpful.
It also, to me, it also gives transparency to the process. I mean, I think the reality is that I see it as a positive, is that you saw that that is what a schematic design estimate is supposed to do. It's supposed to illustrate the fact is you're either not on budget, you've got to start making choices, so it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's saying, hey, we need to correct.
Let me talk to the chair of this.
Yeah, they were dramatically different though.
It does.
Too. And then there were some.
what do you mean between the two estimates? Or?
Well, yeah, they had some things incorrect. The assumptions weren't correct, so there was a lot of back and forth. So which version? I guess I'll get you the latest version. I guess.
Well, you should. I mean, the process that's typical.
Yeah.
You have two independent estimates. You come together, and they are supposed to hash that out and get to where they both agree to a certain point. Now they may get to a point like, now we just can't do that.
Yeah.
And the town would choose, okay, we have more faith in this estimate than that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a good process because
I'm not discounting the process.
No,
I thought it has been an excellent process.
I'm commending you guys for doing that because that's where it's, to Rob's point, that this is where you guys, but this will set you up for a much easier process at DD because you've hashed out a lot of these things, like wage rates, right? Is it union, non-union? I mean, these are a lot of things you get done now, and then it just makes
Those have been done.
Yeah, so your next level.
Yes.
Your next one will be a lot easier because of the quantities approach, right? So
And maybe the solution is, I'm spitballing here, which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes not. But maybe we could do a review in non-public at this committee's level. So let me talk to Nico.
Yeah, I don't know if it. I don't know.
Because I understand your concern about not letting narratives out in public
But
before you're ready to present.
Yeah, we're focused on, building a police station that meets the needs in the program for the funds that we were allotted by the
Assigned by the voters.
Yeah, that's kind of the bottom line.
But I think that's a good way of starting out. Sorry, didn't need to interrupt.
you used the word practitioners, and we come from three different sources, but all are very vested or interested and experienced in how these processes work. So the more information that we have that's appropriate, the more advice and assistance we can give.
That is my goal,
Yeah.
is to get it in front of this group as quickly as I can.
Yeah.
Without upsetting the process in any
Exactly.
way, shape, or
Yeah.
form.
Want to be helpful.
Yep. So let me talk to Nico.
Sorry, thank you.
He always has the right answer. That's why he's the chair.
all right, this is good. Well, I still, again, I like the process. You guys are really doing a lot of work to try to make sure that you're on the right path.
Yeah, the outline of what Dave has talked about conforms to your practice.
Yeah, I know, it's great. You guys are doing
To the extent that you've been able to see what's going on.
I mean, the old way is that you'd wait, you wouldn't have any of this, right? And then you finish and you go out to
I
bid.
think that would have been awful.
Yeah, but that's what the old way was, right? I know.
I know.
And you would have gone out to bid and
Yeah.
came back $1 million high, and everyone's like, we don't have the money, and it sits on the shelf. And so this is a good. Yeah, sorry. All right, Parks and Rec. Any update?
Just other stuff.
Yeah, go
Once I talk to Nico, I'm gonna check in with you.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
I don't think I have everything down. I think the last update I gave at the last meeting, we were out to bid, right?
I can pull it up.
I think we just went out to bid and we're still accepting, well, we aren't accepting the bids. Hampshire Development Corp is accepting the bids because we got into a guaranteed maximum price contract with them. So they're doing the bids. The bids are due Monday, I think, March 31st. And then we have a bid review scheduled on the 2nd next week, I think Wednesday.
They have until August.
Yeah, they're like, that's not a problem. They're not worried about that at all.
Okay.
Yeah, this is our last meeting.
So we'll see, but they're like, yeah, we'll get in there.
They know that that's the deal.
Oh, they've known all along.
Yeah.
So last in February, they were completing the documents and you were planning to go out to bid.
Well, did they complete the documents? No, they haven't really completed. They're bidding.
Yeah, well, it depends on what you call complete. No, they have like schematic design, then they have markups for, the MEP and so forth. So, and they have call outs, they're using the GSA plans as a base. And they've identified pretty much everything that they need to do on the plan. So they're completed enough according to the, Hampshire Development Corp to get bids in to compare apples to apples.
Yeah, so what I had noted was that you were documents to bid to develop a GMP. So whatever they needed for bidding,
No, we already did develop a GMP with them.
Okay.
Because it's the money we had, and they were confident they could do it.
Well, they have to still give you a GMP. I mean, they have to give you.
They did.
You have a proposal for them that you agreed to that you've signed.
We contracted with them.
Okay.
For the money we had. I mean, there's caveats. Nothing is guaranteed. When you look at a contract, a guaranteed maximum price has some guarantees, but not all.
There's quite a few.
There's quite a few. No, exactly,
there's a
but
contract
it's
that
not
says-
100%. Like if they. So I don't think it covered like if they start tearing apart the walls and they find something that's rotten that no way they could have found before.
No.
That's going to be outside the scope. But they are confident they'll get this done by August. The bids are coming in Monday.
I mean, it depends how the GMP gets developed. So yeah, if you put in the GMP that they own and you have an allowance, then they would own it. So I mean, there's different ways to do that.
Yep.
So that it does minimize the risk on the owner.
All the documents are on our website. You can go on our website, you go on our RFP, there's 50 documents there. Every one of them is available. Great. All the bid documents, all the plans, all the specs, everything.
So bids are due to HTC, the development, Hampton Development, on March 31st.
Yep.
And so there's nothing, are you guys gonna review that with them, or they just?
Yeah, I said that. April 2nd, we have a bid review.
Okay.
Because we're just making sure right now it meets all part of one we're making sure is it meets all the CDFA grant funding. Because they require a minimum of 3 bids unless there's certain circumstances where they want to see 3 bids. But if you went out, you've done everything you possibly could, exhausted it, and you don't get 3 bids, then they have like a waiver process or something like that. So Shane told us that they look like they're gonna probably get that on all of this, but still remains to be seen, but he's confident. And he said the bids don't look anything out of ordinary so far that's come in.
Okay. And when do you think they'll actually start construction?
I'll have to ask them. I think they indicated a few weeks after, by April. I mean, they already kind of technically started. If you go there, they did a lot of demo work, and they removed flooring, they removed walls. I mean, they're down to studs in a lot of places, so they're pretty prepped. But they will, I believe they're gonna start probably, by April 1st. So April, May, June. They have 4 months.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. April, May, June, July, August, 5 months. Because I believe it includes August.
So last month you were going to check to see about what the funding language was about what needed to be done by August. Was it payment or was it substantial completion or do you know?
Yeah, it's any work that is not done after that deadline. You can invoice. You can invoice up until then. So if the construction is 98% done at the end date, then you got to pay the remaining 2%.
But what's the requirement for completion by that August date? Is it substantial completion?
They'll only pay for the work that's completed by then.
Yeah, so your
grant runs out or
your
something.
grant will only pay for what's completed at that time. In other words, if they were 80% complete, they'd pay 80%.
Yeah.
If you were 90%, you pay 90%.
Yeah.
The balance would have to be picked up by the town.
Well, no, we have a everyday violation on them for $1,000 a day if they're late.
On Hampshire, it's a liquidated damage clause in there?
But that's just a damage clause, that doesn't necessarily won't pick up the 2% or the 5%.
No.
It'll pick up some or whatever. They're confident. I mean, we'll see what happens, but they're extremely confident they don't feel this is a big job for them.
No.
They feel it's something that they'll be in and out of.
It's just-
There's no issue with them.
I think the only thing that kind of is odd to me is that based upon our conversation last time, they didn't still really have a full scope of work, but they've got bids and so it's a little backwards.
Go look at what's
I will,
on there.
I will,
So
yeah,
dive into all those
Yeah.
details. If you still think it's not complete, I mean, I don't know.
Because we were talking about adding the, additional square footage on the upper levels, there were we talked a little about, and obviously, Dave, you're just the messenger. I don't want to, we don't want to kill the messenger. So it just seems a little fuzzy, I guess is how I would look at it, but that's me.
What do you like? But they didn't add any square footage. I mean, cubic feet maybe, because they didn't add any square footage. They just made a dormer, a wall.
That actually, if you look at the JSA drawings, that was not livable, that was not occupiable space. So.
Oh, that's the whole purpose of the JSA documents, was to make that a community room
The
for.
community
So
room only made half of it, which is the dormer side of it. The other side of it did not have occupiable space. So the reality is you doubled the occupiable space because the dormer went in the back, and now you're actually doing walls all the way up, and then you're doing a roof. So you've added 50% more or 100% more square footage on that.
Okay, I don't need to get into that.
No,
That's into the weeds. I don't.
But that's
agree with
actually
that.
where,
That little-
at least that's my understanding, is that they were going to basically take the entire roof off, build 2 full height walls and a roof.
Yes.
So you're adding, because your dormer before went up at a slope, went to a dormer, so this area right here, not occupiable.
You'd have to go over there and look at it. I mean, it's a pretty high dormer. I mean, with kids or whatever. What do you call square footage? I don't know. But you can probably stand this close. I could probably stand this close to that wall.
Yeah.
So I mean, yes, they're going to take this and go like that. So whatever square footage that adds, I don't know. I think we're in the weeds there.
But the documents are there, we can take a look at.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
if
just
it's out the
take a
bid,
look.
it's on there.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it.
Okay. So again, no,
But we saw that as a game changer to do that. Really was.
do the work that you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's.
But as of right now, you feel comfortable, you're on budget, you're on schedule, do whatever.
Yeah. On budget, on schedule, yes. That one's going very well.
David, did you say there was money somewhere else if you go over the budget there, rather than the damage clause you have with the contractor? There was a fund somewhere else, I thought you told us.
Well, I can't, all I can tell you is there is a rec revolving fund
Yeah,
that
that's it.
recreation department has some control of. I think it might be the select board's the agent to expend.
Yeah.
But they do have funds, but that's not the plan. The
Yeah.
plan is to
You get it done.
get it done with the funds we have currently.
That would probably be the backup plan or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's some change order or something like that.
It's definitely not what we prefer,
Yeah.
obviously.
Okay, are we have any more questions on
No.
10 Hampton Road? So the next thing is to get into the space needs assessment. We talked about this last meeting. We talked also about the April meeting dedicated to really a work session on this. So last month for today, we talked about talking more about the town hall historic report. And just prep for that meeting. So the minutes that I drafted, what I wrote down from last month was, we asked everybody to be familiar with the historic building assessment. I shared those emails with that. And we had talked about some potential buildings. And then we started to talk about the goals and objectives of the April meeting. So, Don, did you get a chance to look at that?
I did. I went through it several times. It's a well-done report. I wonder who funded that. That's a significant report that was done. That's just a curiosity question. How that?
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
Was it a grant?
We were told that when.
Yeah.
I think Julie Gilman got a grant from that.
Oh, it's well done from
I don't
the
know if
historic
it-
side
Yeah.
and as a feasibility and lays out. But my two takeaways from that, one is that it doesn't really, in terms of our assessment, it doesn't really add new space in there or transfer. It's fixing it up so it's made more accessible. Accessibility is a big part of that. Ramps, elevator, and then usability, making it more functional for
With the HVAC
for
especially.
performances and HVAC. And the documents there, it's about a 2.8 to $3 million job project, and if that doesn't include soft costs, so if you put another 20% on top of that, just a rough, that's another 600,000. So it's going to be pushing towards $4 million.
Yeah.
But there was a very definite sense that phasing was a possibility.
Yes,
So it wasn't all at once.
could be. There's some things that are probably not going to be feasible. Going to have to make a decision on the energy side, and that's going to sort of be a lock-in from the beginning. You could phase the elevator, you could phase the accessibility, you could phase the interior improvements. So I think it's in terms of oftentimes what we deal with in terms of coming to make decisions. I think that's a great decision point for the town to get their hands on and say, here's what. So what could we do is, back to your point, Dan, is maybe talk about how to accomplish that without getting into the funding aspects of it, like phasing it.
Yeah, can I just add?
That's my point.
Yeah, just a few things to it too, because I thought it was a great report. I mean, it brought a lot of information together on the history of the building and what's been done. That was really good to see from 1855, I think, when what has been done to the building. But what I noticed is that, and they brought together committees. I think we had an opportunity. I think, Rob, at one point you were trying to attend some of these meetings. But to your point is that it basically said that this is what we've heard, and what the community wants the building to be used for. So I know there was a process that was made available, but it basically said that how it's being used now is how it should be used going forward. Was that done in a way that was not taking into the entire needs of the town? Is my question. So when they say that it should stay, finance should stay on the lower level, it should stay as an auditorium space on the main floor, and then the gallery should stay on the second floor. We now have the old rec building that's available potentially. There's a lot of these other needs that, does finance need to stay there, for example? If we have a space for them to go somewhere, how much are they pushed? That committee was focused on that building, not focused on the entire needs of the town, or I think, I wasn't part of it, so I'm just.
It was a focus study, yes.
It was.
We go beyond.
Which I think it was very much, the people that are in the building were very much part of it, and that's great, they did it, that was awesome. But they also there were stakeholders. And so when you have the arts and, what are they called, the Arts and Cultural Committee, or, which is, they're great, so nothing against them, but they really wanted to be in that building. So that's my only point. I don't have much to say other than I think it was a great report, but I just wonder if we took a step back and looked at all the town needs, is that the best use of that building with what they said in the report?
I think this committee can provide, and it's a little after the fact, so
Yeah.
it's not ideal. But this committee can maybe provide some input along those lines through this process, which is why I've been pushing for this process.
Yeah.
Because it was very much, the study was sponsored, informed, and driven by that committee, the
Yeah.
Arts and Culture Committee. And that's great. They were doing all the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
But looking at all the different buildings that might be in play is also a useful exercise without a commitment to like, well, this has got to be this or this has got to be that. So that's why I'm pushing us for this and supporting the space needs assessment.
Right.
Because I think you're gonna dial out, and maybe they're on the right track, probably, but
Yeah.
this committee can kind of maybe point out if there's an issue.
And I think those opportunities are there without denigrating or
Right.
the function, the theatrical or the arts function of the building. For example, you mentioned finance. That's a separate entity that could go, or Chamber of Commerce, we all know that might have some ideas with that. So there's probably 900, there's probably just rough 1,500 to 1,800 square feet down there that is movable or at least addressable outside of the building without changing the basic concept of the building for improved access and improved performance of the building.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I in no way wanted to denigrate anyone's efforts.
Yeah.
But again, a wider scope
Yeah.
with this committee's
Yes.
look at different buildings,
Yeah.
different functions, and, different groups of people have different focuses.
One of the items that caught my eye is what our recommendation would be on the energy options. Because the building it probably is another energy look, but even with the energy improvements, there's no real good payback on the building.
Yeah.
So how much for either reduced carbon, is that a good thing to move for? Is it pure payback? What are the options here and how do we address that? Because
Yeah, what was the payback? It was like, what, 30 years or?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's like,
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't do it for that, right?
No.
You do it because you want air conditioning in the building.
yes, for
and,
comfort.
And you want to do it the most
Not
efficient way.
comfort for energy. So,
To expand
yeah.
expand the number of months that it could be used.
Yeah.
So that's another
For
function that I
cultural
think that maybe we could have a role and maybe some recommendations.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my thought was that they did a lot of work and they established what they felt like the best use of that with that group that was part of that. I think whatever happens with the campus, on the campus with the town's full space needs assessment, I would just suggest that we take that that was a very good report, but what about this as we try to solve for other needs, right? So, I mean, I'll just, as an example, the Novak room upstairs is a very tight meeting space. Could you find a space over there for something like that that frees up space in here? I think that those, not to take away from the gallery space and the art space on the second floor, but maybe could that be the lower level?
It could very well be multi-purpose.
Or multi-purpose, right? I mean,
Multi-purpose,
I think everybody wants to take all the town assets and make it the most efficient, most usable, most economic, and not have a building that doesn't get used.
It's been a while since I've looked at the report. Did they address acoustics, especially in the first level?
I don't think they did.
I don't see anything.
Because that's something.
this goes back to this, you have the historic quality of it, right? And I think that's the kind of the catch-22 here, is you have a historic building, you're trying to keep the historic character of it, but some of the things don't necessarily marry up to what you would do in a more performance-based, like acoustical baffling and other things. So optimizing it for, a concert or something like that would.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point because they didn't get into those, right? They just talked about trying to kind of keep it as is, but make it better, like adding, the mechanical systems.
And specifically what brought that to mind, the acoustics, is I struggle in those spaces when we do town meetings over there. I struggle to hear here adequately.
Yeah, it's such a big
No,
one.
I have some issues around background noise.
Yeah.
A lot of hard surfaces.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
But you also then, to make it, this gets into more about the, if you really develop the program for the main auditorium space, then you really are gonna get into sound systems and stage lighting, theatrical lighting, right, acoustical stuff. I mean, they had noted on the report, this is getting into the weeds, which we don't need to do, but the balcony, which is 1911, I think it said it was installed, which they mentioned as a historic feature. But there's ways that you can make that much better now, right, and still be respectful of the historic. But it's just a rectangle with very bad sightlines in different areas, right? So, I mean, to me, I would like, if we had the money and how could you make that balcony level better and make it more usable, right?
So more theatrical seating as opposed
Yeah, maybe you round the corner, just again, you have it's just, you would take more work, so that's not what they were asked to do, but, and then you'd have to be, talk about the historic nature of what was done, right? That was what they did in 1911, I think, and so could you make that better by making it look like it should, as far as the more space, better sightlines and stuff. But so, I mean, that's if we ever did get into that where there was actually funding and a design, I would suggest that some of those things get brought back up about how to really make it.
And as we do that, and those are all good points, but as we do that, I think we need to think about practicality and affordability.
Yeah.
Because that's always tough in this town.
Yeah.
For good rightful reasons.
It's got to be approved by the voters.
Yeah.
But why couldn't you? So I come from a different world, as Don does. But why couldn't there be some fundraising for that?
Sure,
right? I mean, it's the town hall, but the space is inside it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could name it. Have a name on the inside or something like that. That would be able to. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that would be interested in something.
Town hall, I mean, I think there's, as you know, you guys know the rules about who can raise funds and what funds can be used for. That would be.
Yeah, back to, I don't know, course in auditorium, right?
Yeah.
If you want to give a $5 million check or something like that.
I have, right, that's in my back pocket.
So, yeah, but
Kathy.
I don't know exactly, you guys have to know the rules and stuff like that, but to me, it's, or the whatever gallery on the second floor, right? So,
And we're, in thinking of that, we're rapidly getting out of the scope of what we do and more into the stakeholders are there, but you bring up a good point, there's lots of options as we stay mindful of the practicality and the cost of this, because it's very easy. We're at probably 4 million now, and this all of a sudden they're saying, we've seen some of those projects. This is not reachable.
yeah.
But you know something about this because of the rehab you're doing on the auditorium at the academy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the point where you start here and then you're here and then you're in a different town.
We had the principal at the select board meeting
Yeah.
about a month ago.
Yeah.
We talked about that project.
That's a risk in almost any major project is
But-
the program and the scope gets beyond a good person's reach.
But this all plays into the items that they identify, which are like code items, accessibility. These are the primary things you have to do, right?
Yeah.
These are the gotta do's. And the second part of that really is to say what program is a best fit for that particular, all those different spaces. And then that will drive things like HVAC. So the reality is if you go in there and say, I'm gonna have an auditorium for 500 people, that really does drive what the system sizes are, right?
Yeah.
So it's gonna drive what happens with lighting, it's gonna drive what happens with electrical. It's really starting out with making sure that we've got the right fit for the right things that are gonna go in there and create flexibility so that you can.
Yeah.
So I think part of this, why we were talking about this up, is the question is whether should that building be included in our space needs assessment,
I think.
and to what effort? I mean, to what level, I guess.
I'd say yes. It's almost a keystone in the whole discussion.
That building and
Yeah.
the building that the rec department is vacating are two critical pieces
They are.
of any space needs assessment.
They inform each other. They really do.
I'd say everybody on the committee is in favor of
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Not just those two, but those
Oh,
two
yes.
are critical
Yeah.
pieces.
Good, okay. Dave?
Yeah, can I ask a question about the assessment? Because you had said earlier, it's not, the committee doesn't plan to do it. You would recommend hiring someone to do it. Is that right?
That's what I think we had talked about, was coming up with.
Yeah, I just want to, because I don't, whatever the committee, whichever way you want to go, but like, it seems crazy, but we're already like, a couple months, we're going to start budget and CIP. And I mean, we're probably, the CIP directive's going out, in less than a month. So it's crazy how quick it happens.
Yep.
But if there is something, you
Yeah.
probably want to spend the next few months and have something, maybe something tangible in June or something like that.
That could go.
Which you only have a few, like I say that, which, it's 3 months away, but it's only, a few hours away for meeting
So
time. So.
something that could be slotted into the CIP.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I just heard that, so I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah,
If that's the
yeah.
plan.
It's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, I
Otherwise
think
you
you
lose
would,
a year.
right? I mean,
Exactly.
I think we would, I think our goal was to try to come up with the goals and objectives, and provide a recommendation, say to the town, we think this is what you should do with these draft goals, draft objectives. Here's a list of buildings that we think you should study, and maybe we recommend, like we did with the facilities condition assessment.
Yeah.
And we could be part of the RFP process, we can help drive that.
Yeah, but a study would be absolutely essential. It's not this committee's job to figure it out.
Well, I didn't think so. So I just was putting on the table that I have a few. If we get down,
No,
I
you're
think we
absolutely
have time, but we don't want to let it slip away either. So.
I had a constituent complain about all the studies that this town does. And I said, well, if you don't want studies, then you need a different form of government. Because the only way that SB2 can move forward is to do studies. You need an informed electorate, and you can't have that without studies. So you should be in favor of a different form of government if you're sick of studies.
How many people are in finance over there?
Corey is finance director, Laura is his second.
It's not
And
that many, right?
I think there's one other. It's a 3-person office.
And they're there every day, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
5 days a week.
Yeah.
Monday through
Are
Friday.
they the only people in the building all day?
And then there's the chamber.
The
There's
chambers on the
chamber
other side,
back, yeah.
where the district court used to be.
Yeah.
So those are, and then, of course, you've got your communications department.
EXTV is up there.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Monday through Friday.
Up on the
Yeah,
yeah, that's the
gallery.
third one.
Yeah, they moved. They used to be up here,
Yeah.
but now they're completely over there.
Nice.
Yeah,
I mean,
this
very
is just
rarely.
IT.
They just come over here to record the meetings, but their home base is all over there.
The IT director's still behind
IT's still up
the
here.
wall, right?
IT's up here.
Yeah.
EXTV is over
Oh,
there.
yeah, so they're just running off their system from here, that stuff. Yeah.
So to Dave's point about the CIP, if we were some months back here, we might be able to do a CIP for all that we're going to look at. But it is possible that we may just have to do a CIP placement, which would be basically a description of the scope of work and the amount that we would estimate for the next step, so that you could get it in the CIP. Focusing on, I'm just saying on this building here, if that is crucial, as we went along and developed
And/or
additional
the building
CIP
director.
for the other,
Yeah.
for the other people. So I'm not sitting here thinking that we have to get all of this done in one basket in order to give it to Dave to get into the CIP.
Right.
We could piecemeal it.
Well, and one of the things I think space needs assessment would point towards is prioritization.
Yes,
Right.
better word than piecemeal, yeah.
That's definitely part of what I'm looking for out of the process, along with goals and objectives, like Mark just talked about. So that's what I'm hoping we can get done next month.
Well, I think it's a lot like what you were showing us for the training, right? So here's the list of items and
Timeline.
timeline and goals and objectives. So I think that's
If you take that approach, we're focusing just on this, but if you take that and you sketch out, if we want to get from here to there.
right.
With all the different buildings, these are all the things that would have to happen. It's a multi-year process.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
Yep.
how much of that is the Facilities Advisory Committee? How much of that falls over to the planner? It's a cooperative thing, but you put that timeline together and all of a sudden you're saying, wow, these are all the things that have to be done in order to get from A to Z.
Yep.
That is the best way to navigate our form of government, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
8 years in on the select board.
But even whether it's a different form of government, each of those boxes need to be ticked, no matter how you do it. They're all actions that have to take place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Things might happen a little faster.
Exactly.
in different form of government.
Yeah.
It's a more of a stately
Yeah.
parade
Yeah.
as opposed to a fast walk. And there are markers at each place where
Absolutely,
you stop
yes.
and you honor the process.
And if you don't, then you end up taking steps back.
You don't succeed.
Yeah.
And we've done that. We have seen that happen, where we'll try to rush something,
Yeah.
and the voters say, nope, go back to the beginning.
And it's not something that's focused on just this town government. It's the work that you've done with people, this work that Mark and I have done, there's a same, it's a process that you have to go through.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's where, similar to when we started out with the FCA, was, exactly outlining what we wanted, our goal,
Yeah.
as this is a piece of a puzzle that we're trying to do, is just set up tools for the town to be able to use in perpetuity to evaluate, evaluate things.
And I would add, because I think it's in this environment, right, it's not something where we're adding bureaucracy to it. We want to streamline it, find out where we can do it faster or better. But there are steps that we have to take.
I'm sorry. We're trying to be masterful about what our process is.
Yes.
People think that I'm critiquing our form of government when I talk about form of government. I'm absolutely not. I've become agnostic about form of government. I just want us to be masterful about whatever our form of government is. And SB2 is our form of government, so let's master it.
Right.
As committees, and volunteers on committees, as select board members, as employees, as voters
Yeah.
in the town. We're all important in the process. And the more mindful we are about that process, the better we will do it. And the more we will accomplish at a great price.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I was just making some notes as you guys were talking. So I think an outline for the April meeting. So overall, the committee will develop a recommendation for the select board. So in the recommendation, we would include assessment goals and objectives, overall process that we think that should be followed, a timeline that you talked about, and then in that would be the buildings that should be part of the assessment. So we could keep it kind of short and say that, this is what we feel like based on what has happened, recent developments in the town, right, with growth, with the new Parks and Rec building on Hampton Road. And it's a good time for this to happen.
Did you put that prioritization in there? Was that, I blanked out temporarily.
Like I say, being
That was something that,
on the buildings.
yeah, just like, is there an order that
Yeah.
this committee thinks the town should address these
Right.
different buildings and getting the right use out of them?
Yeah, I think it should. You're right. I mean, start with the priority ones down to eventually all the buildings should be part of this, right? But when you start with, I think you're going to need to start with your needs. I mean, what are the needs that the town has, and then look at what you have for availability, and then start to say, well, how can you fit these needs, and what's the best use of some of these buildings that you have?
Priorities
So
may
maybe-
fall from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think if you've got any, like the recent operational, organizational assessment that was done, anything that you can glean from that, are there, that's how you start to create the matrix of relationships, right, of departmental relations or use relationships, so that you can sit there and say, by the way, we noticed when we did our evaluation, these two groups work well or do a lot of work together, and here's some of the barriers to.
So this group that's great. That's a great point, Rob. This group should maybe give a quick glance to the Keegan report.
Right.
Yeah. Is that available online?
I believe it's,
So
because that had some recommendations for, how departments were organized. And how reports should be reorganized, and to a large degree that has happened. There were a lot of different reports going to the town manager, and that's been, slimmed, and, there were areas of concentration that were created with fewer people reporting to the town manager. But,
That was the organizational study that was done, right? They looked at everything.
Yeah.
And, okay.
So I think I want to go out and say, what is it you want to do informs us. So I think I'm envisioning, because we will want some type of consultant to come and do it. We're not going to do this heavy lifting ourselves. We're going to need some help. So that person comes in and says, what is it you want me to do? So that comes to objectives, goals, and you can call it a scope of work if you want to. But we need to lay out enough of those items in that envisioning, not necessarily to the planning board or to the select board yet, but at some time that has to be fashioned so that you can give it to whoever is going to do the work and very clearly state, this is our objective, this is what, and here's enough information attached to that so you will understand what's to be accomplished. Right? And I think that's the sum of the work. I'm not saying that's a minimal amount of work, but that's the sum of the work I think we have to do to get from here to there.
sounds right.
Yeah, I mean, we want people to understand what we're asking for, right? So we gotta be able to share this with the select board so they understand, and eventually, if it goes to CIP, then people are gonna,
When will we
understand
be
why.
able to get like a rough order of magnitude budget of this?
Well, I mean, Rob and Chris.
Once the scope is down, can we?
Well, I don't know.
We're gonna do this,
I think we're waiting, next month's gonna give us a lot of the
I don't think
background
we could-
information.
I could think, we're not prepared to do that here. It's going to.
Oh, no, I wasn't asking that.
So if we want to sit there and say you're starting June, I think we should start with, when do we want to start to target a time frame, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about where does it come in where we understand what this might cost?
So if we're doing
Like,
this-
where in this process?
Yeah, if like we're developing a CIP, we want to say this is what we think it could cost, right? I mean,
Yes.
yeah, so it wouldn't be until next year that
Generally.
this is happening,
So-
it'd be approved.
Yeah, so I would ask in the sequence of the CIP, when is that point when you need to have something to hold in place?
June 20th.
Between Rob and Chris, Chris, can you just speak to
I
that?
technically don't need a number at that point. It's
So that's what
nice.
he's getting at, yeah.
Well, I don't usually need a number because usually CIP, you don't put it for the following year. When something enters the CIP, it's 5 or 6 years out.
Yeah.
But if you want it to accelerate, then I think we need a number, like,
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
because, if something's 6 years away, you can get away with a TBD. We'll figure out what it's gonna cost. I mean, why put a number now for 6 years from now?
right.
sorry. Are we gonna give ourselves some more time next month? Is this a longer meeting than just an hour?
It might be, I mean,
I think
an
so.
hour and a half, or
I think so. I think just
Yeah.
this conversation here is sensing me that it is. And with what Dave just said, I'm not sensing, compared to some other projects, I'm not sensing that there is an urgency to this. I think deliberation and planning comes before rushing to get something done, particularly on the whole.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, we could start, I mean, I'm open to start earlier and go later, I mean, we could do.
block out 2 hours. We may not need it all, but
Yeah.
it'd be good to be able to kind of work our way through.
Do we want to target, I think we were, when is that, is it April? What's the time, what's the date? Right now?
Well, the 4th would be 23rd. The 4th Wednesday.
23rd of April.
That's it, right, that's when we would do it?
That's good for me.
I think so.
So
Don't you do the 4th?
Fourth week of the month, right?
The 4th Wednesday of every month?
Yeah.
I think that's your regular schedule, so.
So that's the 23rd, I mean, yeah, I could do 5 to 7,
That sounds good. That works for me.
April
If it works
23rd.
for everyone else.
And while we're saying that extra time for the next session, I was thinking a little longer range that this is going to take, beyond that, I think it's going to take quite a bit of time.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, beyond that.
I think it took us a year and a half
Yeah,
for
that's
the,
what I'm thinking.
for the
Yeah.
FCA.
For the
so-
inventory,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
maintenance.
We don't have to,
Yeah, so if we just wanted to put a placeholder in without a, you know, a budget attached for a future year, then we might as well, because that's what we like. As soon as it's kind of when they're in their infancy, get them in there, you know, just so they're on the radar screen.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, it is a stately process typically, but there was something that was put into the CIP last year, and it went to the ballot because the budget recommendation committee thought, you know, there was a revamp of the transfer station for $50,000.
Sure.
Turned around in 1 year.
Yeah.
You know, because there was a sustainability advisory committee initiative to really address some of the things that they're trying to pack in there with styrofoam recycling and composting. So, you know, it can happen.
Oh, absolutely. It's just the point, you know, we try to avoid it. You know, we try to capital plan and
so I think we'll see what comes out of next month's meeting, and then.
Yep. I mean, if we can take the 2 hours and really develop quickly the goals and objectives, I mean, it may not be that long of a process for us to come up with a recommendation that, at least to get, I don't know if we want to go to the select board first and then before it goes too far, I don't know. I mean, a lot of this, it shouldn't be that hard for us to just put our thoughts together and just put it on paper.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be that.
And I will give them a heads up in my report on this meeting.
And, you know, I think part of it is that as we develop the goals, I mean, what are we, we're trying to really utilize the town property as most efficient as it can, right? And the opportunities that you're going to have an empty Parks and Rec building.
What's the formula? Highest and best use?
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that to me is what could ramp it up, and maybe that's the priorities that we have a building that's empty, but we should try to avoid those focused assessments. So we should take a step back and look at the entire needs of the town and not just focus on how it's being used now, and that's fine, we're going to continue. I don't know, so I guess we can get into that.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. And that is what this committee can bring.
Yeah, so I guess as far as the priority, not the priority, but the fast tracking this is because you don't want to let the Parks and Rec building sit too long. And the longer that sits, then you have people move in that you don't want to.
Oh, it is
time.
This is time.
Yeah. So, but again, maybe where there's you do a big piece of this, but you only focus on a couple buildings on what the best use of that. All right. Anything else on this? We got a good agenda for April.
That was a fantastic conversation we had right there.
So then we'll just go into, do we want to get, so last month we talked about buildings. It was the 3032 Court Street, right? Senior Center, Parks and Rec, the current public safety complex, town hall, town office, DPW, Rains Barn, and Historical Society building. I think that's a good list to start again with in April. Can I go through? I think we've captured everything.
Yep.
I don't know if there's other buildings that we've missed.
I'll reset out the spreadsheet that we did for this has all.
Yeah. I mean, there is the transfer station. I was reminded, I think you did, Dave, that you guys own a house.
Simpson Barn.
Yeah, you have a place out there.
Simpson Barn and the house that goes with it.
Yeah, so
And it's a pretty big barn.
I mean, should we, I guess that's what we should really, is that, I mean, what is that being used for now, right? I mean, storage.
Unsafe storage.
But the house is empty,
it's
right?
not very safe. I mean, you go in there, it's sketchy. It's like an old New Hampshire barn. It's not, so we don't really, it just sits there. Something needs to be done. I think, it wouldn't be a bad idea if we could, put it in there.
I mean, it could be the best use.
And the single family home. We have a 3-bedroom single family home that was lived in for a long time by the fire chief that is now vacant. And
maybe that needs to go on the tax rolls.
Sell it, rent it. Yeah. So what do you call that property?
Do something, assess what we need to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it should be included because we don't really, there's some old equipment in the barn that's been in there for years.
Good point, yeah.
And they do, I think DPW does throw I forget what, maybe a plow or something there's a little bit of area that they use it, but mostly it's you don't,
right.
you don't want to walk through it or you just kind of stay out.
Good foreclosure style. What do you call that property?
I call it the Simpson Barn.
Simpson.
And what about the house? The same thing?
They're all
Yeah,
Barn
150 Kingston.
Right.
You can put it all under Kingston Road properties.
Yeah, 150 Kingston Road.
Okay.
That's where it is.
I mean, we were just talking about the price of real estate. I mean, you could carve out that house and sell it. And,
Well, what happens is that you possibly could. There's some, the landfill kind of encroaches
Yeah.
right into the back.
There's access.
And then the access goes between the house and the barn
yeah.
for the DPW that we need
The
to
alternate
maintain.
access.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of trucks, a lot of,
Yeah.
lot of activity.
So there's some things that pinch.
Well, it does go back into that, from a looking ahead at the transfer station and what is the long-term, that would be one of the things you could ask. What would you vision for the transfer station? How could it change? And
I love
does
the
that
transfer
plan
station.
add or not add,
That's
right?
my to-do list on Saturday. I love going to the transfer station.
If you want me to put my marker down on that, I think we pay way too much for curbside pickup. It's a huge area where we could. I look at towns like Rye that don't have curbside pickup, and you go to the transfer station, and there's no reason why this town couldn't do that. I understand taking away service is controversial, but we pay a lot of money for curbside pickup, and it's not clear that there is going to be a place to take that stuff. In the future, the landfill in Rochester will close sometime in the 2030s. And so there's all kinds of things happening in the environment surrounding us that, we can't assume we'll always have curbside pickup.
And that goes back to what you're building here is exactly that information, so that somebody else later on picks up the thing and says, oh, let's sell the house. And you're sitting there and you say, oh, well, hey, by the way.
Well, this strikes me, and I think you're getting there, this strikes me as one, in the milieu of all these, small milieu, of all the things we're looking at. This is one that I think very definitely crosses over into some of the other town committees.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right.
Sustainability.
For their participation.
I mean, we're nibbling at the problem on sustainability advisory with composting and now this styrofoam initiative.
And it has, whichever direction you want to come from that, it's got a finite life to it. Very finite.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've added it to the potential list. We can dive into that.
So the transfer station should be
Oh, the transfer
on the list
station
as
too,
well
yeah.
if we're going to take up the
Yeah. I mean, I think these are good questions about we don't want to lose land where we may need that land in the future for expansion of the transfer station. Or something
We've
like
done
that.
a small infusion of $50,000 to try to rationalize the transfer station for the immediate future. Obviously, that's not going to solve what might be the issues going out further 10, 20 years from now.
Okay.
Can that house be built into offices? Is it livable? Is it
Well,
open space?
the fire chief used to live
Is
there.
there, right?
I forget when that ended, but when I got here in 2016.
Brian lived there.
And Brian was there
Eric never lived there.
No, Brian. Yeah. But the fire chief lived there for a handful of years, so it's within the last, maybe 6-7 years.
It's pretty small.
It was occupied?
Yeah, it's not very big.
But it really comes down to the best use.
Yep.
Highest and best.
Yeah. So maybe the land's the best use, but not the building. So it's why keep the building then it's not worth anything and just get rid of it and use something else. So DPW storage. All right, so let's go new business. Dan?
I'm all set.
Ryan?
Nothing.
We'll skip Dave because he's not a member. Alan?
I'm good.
And I'm good.
All right, Dave, we'll go back to you.
Oh, I'm good.
All right, no business, no new.
Bees. Wow.
And so, what do we need a motion to
Make a motion, we adjourn.
adjourn?
Hit the gavel.
Oh, do I just do it?
Yeah.
I don't have to. Do I have to second? I have to
Oh,
vote.
you can, yeah. But
All right, adjourn.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv. Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about